about the slope of lines. So the first one is just a basic slope problem. If you have the points -5, -1, and -1, -4, how do you find the slope of that line? This is what you saw last year in algebra, but we're going to use this slope formula, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So the first thing you'll always want to do is take your ordered pairs, label them x1, y1, x2, y2. It doesn't matter which one's x1, y1, which one's x2, y2. You just need to have the same ordered pair has to have both the ones. The other ordered pair has to have both the twos. From here, we can just plug it into our formula. y2 is -4 minus y1 is -1 divided by x2 is -1 minus x1 is -5. Well, we can see minus a negative becomes plus a positive. -4 plus 1 is -3 divided by negative minus a negative is plus a positive. -1 plus 5 is 4. So your slope, m is your formula for is your variable for slope. Your slope is going to be -3/4. Okay. Now, if you remember, we're going to also talk about parallel and perpendicular slopes today. If the slope is -3/4, the parallel slope is the exact same thing, -3/4. The perpendicular slope would be the opposite reciprocal, so it would be +4/3. Okay? This is a whole review from last year, so just make sure you know this really well. Now, the next one, if you're given a line with a slope of 4/9, and then it gives you the points -4a and 5/3, find a. Again, you're going to label all your parts. If they told you the slope, you can go ahead and put in an m for that. Now that we have our point, x1, y1, and then x2, y2. Okay? Again, you can rewrite your formula. If you rewrite it every time, you'll remember it every time. y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. We can plug this back in, and our slope is 4/9, so 4/9 equals y2 is 3 minus y1 is a divided by x2 is 5 minus x1 is -4. Again, plus a positive. Minus a negative is plus a positive. So you end up with 4/9 equals 3 minus a over 5 plus 4 is 9. Well, at this point, this one's actually easy. You could see if 9 equals 9, and the numerator is supposed to equal 4, 3 minus what is 4? 3 minus -1. Some of them won't be this easy, and what I would advise you to do is cross multiply. Okay? So if you can't just see it, then you can cross multiply. 9 times 4 is 36 equals 9 times 3 minus a would give you 9 parentheses 3 minus a. So you end up with 36 equals 27 minus 9a. Subtract 27, subtract 27. You end up with 9 equals -9a. Divide by -9. Divide by -9. And you can see that -1 equals a. Okay? Now, if you had seen this, if you could just see that -1 is a, I don't want you to just put -1. I'll assume you're cheating. I would want you to say 4/9 equals 3 minus, and in place of a, put that -1 over 9, which equals plus a positive. 3 plus 1 is 4 over 9. So then you could say x equals, or a equals -1. Okay? That's what the work should look like. From here, let's go down one more. This time there are 2 variables. Okay? So if they give us 2 variables, again, you're still going to label your points. x1, y1, x2, y2, and our slope is m. If you plug that into your formula, our slope of 2 equals y2, 3, minus y1 of a, divided by x2 is b, minus x1 is 3. Okay? This says in terms of b. This in terms of b means your answer will have a b in it. Okay? It's going to mean a equals something, and there's going to be a b in there. Okay? So in this case, the first thing I'd want to do is put that 2 over 1. Okay, this one you're not just going to be able to look at it and figure it out. You'll have to cross multiply. So I would cross multiply 1 times 3 minus a, which is just going to be 3 minus a, equals 2 times b minus 3 and you end up distributing 1 times anything as itself, so you end up with just 3 minus a equals 2 times b is 2b, 2 times negative 3 is minus 6. And if we want to get it in terms of b, that means that we need to get this a by itself, okay? So the first thing I would do is subtract 3 from both sides. You end up with negative a equals 2b minus 9. From here, we need to get that to be a positive a. Well, this right here is like a negative 1a, okay? So what you'd want to do is divide by negative 1 on all parts. You end up with a equals negative 2b plus 9. That would be your answer. From here, if they give you two lines and they tell you that they're either parallel, perpendicular, or oblique lines, we need to determine that, okay? What you're going to do is we're going to find the slope of UV and the slope of XY and compare. So for line UV, okay, we'll do that one first. And I would just do slope of UV, maybe to clarify, is going to be our, we'll still label our points, x1, y1, x2, y2. So you end up with negative 1 minus 2 over negative 1 minus 0. Negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. Negative 1 minus 0 is negative 1. So your slope of line UV equals positive 3. Okay? Now, we want to find the slope of XY. Well, for XY, we'll do slope of XY would be x1, y1, x2, y2. You end up with y2 is 3 minus y1 is 1, divided by x2 is negative 3, minus x1 is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. Negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6, which simplifies to negative 1/3. So our slope of line XY equals negative 1/3. We can see that if this were like 3 over 1, they're reciprocals of each other, and they're also one's positive, one's negative. They're opposite. So since they are opposite and reciprocals, and we know that these are perpendicular lines. Now, from here, we're going to look at graphing. Okay, if you're given graphs, then the way we look at slope from a graph is rise over run. Because when you're going up and down, you're changing your y values. When you're going left to right, you're changing your x values. So, for this first one, you would pick two exact points. I have an exact point here and an exact point here because it crosses the grid line exactly. So my rise would be 1, 2, 3. I'm going up, so it's positive 3. I'm running to the right 1, so it's positive 1. So my slope of this line would be positive 3 over 1, which is just 3. If I were to look at my other line, I have an exact point right here at the y-intercept, and another one here. If I were to go rise over run, well, this time I'd have to go down, so it would be negative 1 over 1, 2, 3 over positive 3. So my slope would be negative 1 over 3. Okay? Well, if the blue line has a slope of 3, the red has a slope of 1/3, we know that these are perpendicular lines, which would mean these form a right angle. You can't always just look at it because it can be really hard to tell if they're exactly perpendicular or if they're just intersecting. Okay? Now you could have also risen 1 and gone to the left 3, and that would have been positive 1 over negative 3, which is the same thing. From here, if it's not perpendicular or parallel, we're going to call it oblique. So oblique is just non-perpendicular not parallel. They're just intersecting. This last one, they look parallel, but we can go ahead and double check with this point at -1, -2, and then our y-intercept of 0, 1. If you rise 1, 2, 3, +3, to the right 1, +1, this first line has a slope of 3/1, which is 3. Our second line, you can do the same thing. I'll pick this point of 2, 2, and maybe this one of 3, 5. Rise 1, 2, 3, +3/1, +1. Our slope is 3/1, or 3, so those would be parallel lines.